Well, howdy folks, it's Matthew, your friendly neighborhood technician, making part 2 of the Saturn Vue no start, stalling while driving BCM diagnosis. In the first video, just to recap, I showed you some of the things that you really need to do before you even begin to start to diagnose this. Go ahead and remove all of your center console covers so you can gain access to your BCM. Go ahead and dissect and open up your BCM so you can gain access to the motherboard, including gaining access to your ignition switch and removing the under dash covers so you can gain access to all your wires and stuff underneath there. Also, go ahead and remove the cover for your junction box, and so you have access there. All this stuff you're going to want to use to test. So once you've gotten to that point now, and again, just to recap, the issues that you've been having with your Saturn Vue are that it doesn't start at times. The dash lights go crazy, the anti-theft system light goes crazy, and then all of a sudden it will start, or worse, it actually stalls while you're driving. This is going to show you how to diagnose the BCM and all the systems associated with the ignition. So once you've gained access to all that, you're going to want to get a multimeter and a test light, a laptop or a decent sheet of paper of some kind, because you're going to have a lot of notes that you want to take. And most importantly, you're going to want some type of decent OBD2 computer that has live data, freeze frame data, and also factory fault code ability. And the reason why that's important is because some of the systems that we're going to be diagnosing, like the anti-theft system and the body control module, are only going to be able to be diagnosed through factory codes, not your traditional OBD2 codes. So your traditional OBD2 scanner that's worth $50 to $100 probably won't do it. You're going to need one in the $200 to $500 range that will do SRS codes, OBD2 codes, factory codes, ABS codes, transmission control module codes, and all the other good stuff in between, like live data and freeze frame data. So it doesn't matter whether you have a check engine light on or off. If there is a factory code associated with that BCM and anti-theft system, it will read it. So just real quick, how does the anti-theft system disable the vehicle? Well, let's talk about your symptoms. If you are having an issue with your car stalling while you're driving it, more than likely it's not going to be the actual anti-theft system itself. However, the anti-theft system is integrated into the body control module. And what the body control module ultimately does is control everything that's part of the body, so to speak. It's where the power that controls your interlocks and windows runs through. It's where the power that for your lights on your dash, and it's where your needles and your dash gets its power to work from. It all runs through there, and it's all enabled by signals and values sent to it through things like the ignition switch, the electronic control module, and all that other good stuff. The vehicle security system that enables and disables the fuel injector, the fuel pump, and the spark plugs is part of this motherboard. So if that system is acting up, what it'll do, how that system works, and let's just use a number, let's say 12 volts. So let's say you're driving your car to the grocery store, and you get to the grocery store and you turn your car off. Well, the computer, the vehicle security system, the computer that's integrated into that motherboard, reads that value of 12 volts. It stores and records and memorizes it, so that way the next time when you stick your key in and supply another 12 volts properly to the system, it now reads that new value of 12 volts, compares it to the old value of 12 volts. When that matches up, it then sends a signal that it's okay to power the fuel pump, the spark plugs, and the fuel injectors. So you would have to stop and think about it for a second. With that being a safety and security feature, once that system is bypassed, regardless of how you bypass, doesn't matter whether you stick the key in and supply the proper value to it that way, or whether you stick a screwdriver in the ignition switch and turn it over, or whether you use some type of high fancy Fast and Furious computer, bottom line is so long as you supply the proper value to that computer, it will enable the system to start. Once that's bypassed, it's not going to just up and all of a sudden go, oh, I need to turn the car off, unless for some reason, whether it be a short in the system due to a bad wire, a bad sensor, a bad ignition switch, for whatever reason, if while you're driving all of a sudden that computer thinks and sees that it's not being supplied 12 volts, the next thing it's going to think is, I've been turned off. And then if that turns back on and there's a short and now you've got only 5 volts being supplied, all of this happens within a matter of milliseconds, so to speak. And now all of a sudden, according to this computer, because of a short in the system or a bad sensor, bad wiring, bad ignition switch, bad computer, whatever it is, bottom line is it thinks it's been shut off and turned back on. And that's ultimately what's going to cause your vehicle to turn off and on like that and then not want to start. So again, it could be in here, but it could be in any one of these wires leading to any one of these ignition switches or sensors that's dropping off. And the thing is some of this stuff can get a little expensive, so it's worth it to understand the knowledge and diagnose it before you start guessing and just swapping out electronic control modules and body control modules. A lot of people will swap out the camshaft and crankshaft, and that actually doesn't solve the problem, and sometimes that can be a $500, $600, $700, $800 fix. So I'm going to pause it here real quick, and when I come back, we're going to go ahead and use our laptop to take notes with, and we're going to hook up our computer and start pulling codes and see if we can find any codes associated with that BCM. Alright, so I got my OBD2 scanner hooked up and I'm ready to take notes. I've actually already pulled a few codes real quick, so that's why I have some up there, but we'll go ahead and start from the top here. Alright, here we go. Alright, so we've got a P0171 fuel trim system lean. Now that's a code that could be associated with a vehicle that's consistently stalling out or dying. All this is telling you all the stuff associated. Here's the freeze frame data. That'll tell you what the car was doing. The engine RPM was 640, vehicle speed 0 miles per hour. So that's an engine that's stalling out right there. Accelerator pedal position sensor 1, 2 not plausible. Transmission control module requested MIL illumination. So the transmission control module detected an issue as well. Throttle pedal position signal. Okay, so these are 5 generic OBD2 codes. Some of them are Saturn, some of them are generic. The 0171, those are generic codes. A lot of these codes could be associated with a vehicle that's been stalling and not wanting to start correctly. Sensors not working correctly, not getting the proper amount of voltage going off. So what we want to do is we want to go into the factory settings. So we want to go to Saturn OEM Enhanced. Okay, now we've got some Saturn codes here. Sorry for how shaky it is. I'm using one hand here.
Daddy.
What's up, kiddo? Yes, I will get you some juice. So now we're going to get into the Saturn codes. Some of them are going to match the generic code. Some of them are going to be different.
Yeah.
I'm going to pause it real quick and get my kiddo some juice, and I'll be right back. Alright, and so I'm back. So let's go ahead. Let's see, I stored that 2138. Come on, camera. Anyways, made a note of P2138. Accelerator, pedal position, sensors 1, 2 not plausible. The Let's see what else we have here. There's your P0700. That was stored both in OBD2 and in the Saturn factory codes. Air conditioning, refrigerant, pressure sensor, circuit, low voltage. That could be due to a engine that's dying out or not wanting to start correctly. There's our P0171. There it is again. Again, this could be associated with the engine dying out, sensors not getting proper voltage when it should be, and the computer reading it for longer than 15 seconds. And that code right there, P1629, could be our silver tuna. P1629, theft deterrent fuel enable signal not received. Okay, so P1629. Let's keep moving forward. More than likely, all these other codes you see, I will end up dropping off, not worrying about them, and I'll end up focusing in on why the theft deterrent fuel enable signal was not received. 1791, throttle pedal position sent signal, engine torque delivered to transmission control module signal. So I guess, and again, that could be because it dropped off and it wasn't delivered. Let's go back to 1629. Let's go get back out of here. I pressed the wrong button. Oops. Give me main menu. We'll get into here, firmware and all that other stuff. We'll get into here in a minute. Let me pause it real quick. There we go. Funny what you can do with two hands. So P1629, theft deterrent fuel enable signal not received. That's what we're going to go ahead and focus on and see if we can figure this out. That's going to, again, point us almost directly towards the BCM. So I'll be right back, folks. Okay, and so like I said, we're going to disregard the majority of those codes, and we're going to look at the Saturn OEM Enhanced Engine Control Module codes. And inside the engine control module, I found a Saturn Enhanced code P1629, theft deterrent fuel enable signal not received. So let's recap to understand how the system works. The anti-theft system is inside of the BCM, and it receives a signal, and once it reads that the signal it receives is proper, it then talks to the ECM and the transmission control module and all that other good stuff. Hold on a second. Let me get my kiddo here. And so it all talks to each other, and once the computer sees all the proper signals and everything's good, then it enables the fuel injectors, the spark plugs, and the fuel pump. But how exactly does that work? And where does it receive its signal from? Well, ultimately, the signal starts right here at the key fob. So when you lock or unlock your doors, and you notice that actually made it beep inside of here. Okay, so it can receive that signal from the key fob again. All right, or the other place it can receive its signal from is the ignition switch. Now, if you look underneath here, if you look here, this is a pretty glorified ignition switch. This whole piece. This is just the tumbler, the cylinder. But underneath here, you have a 3-prong connector right here. This is your anti-theft sensor inside of here. It's basically a magnet. It works on the Hall effect. When you stick your key in and turn it, it is provided with power. Okay? So now it's provided with power. The little coil magnet in there is powered up. And so when you turn the key and you make contact in there, this is what sends, and again, we're just using a number here to keep it simple. This is what sends your signal. So let's say this is what sends the 12-volt signal to the first leg of the system, and that's the BCM. So then once the BCM, or the vehicle security system, reads that 12 volts, compares it with the previous stored memory of 12 volts, once that matches up, it then sends a signal to the transmission control module, and it sends another signal to the ECM, the electronic control module, and that's what tells you, or tells the vehicle to go ahead and start. That's what tells the electronic control module that, hey, everything's okay, all the values match per the sensor in here, so go ahead and enable the fuel pump, the fuel injectors, and the spark plugs. So this is where it starts at, is in the key fob or the sensor. This is where it gets its signal from. Once you turn this key over and it reads everything correctly, the vehicle will start. If this sensor has gone bad, if the BCM is bad, then the ECM can't read what it needs in order to start. Or in other words, a theft deterrent fuel enabled signal was not received. So it wasn't received from this point on. So where am I going to go next? I'm going to start looking into the ignition switch and the ignition system as a whole, that sensor. I'm going to be looking into the BCM as well, and I'm also going to be checking the 15 amp fuses that are going to be on the passenger side. In the previous video, if you remember, we took that panel off there. So I'm going to be checking all the fuses that are associated with it, and they'll be inside on the passenger side. I'm going to be working with the ignition switch. I'm also going to go ahead and clear out all trouble codes, and I'm going to perform a pass lock relearn on the vehicle. If that doesn't fix the issue, then at that point we're going to start looking into changing out sensors, which would be the ignition control module and switch there, the BCM, and also the ECM. So it's getting late on a Saturday afternoon, and I actually had instructions from the owner of this vehicle not to put a ton of hours on this thing. So this job I'm just kind of doing as I have some time throughout the days and getting it done, and hopefully I'll have an answer, a confirmed answer here in the next day or two. So the next video I'm going to get up is going to be on this other GM vehicle that doesn't want to start from time to time. Could be a starter issue, could be a ignition issue, who knows. But I just think it's interesting. I got two GM vehicles that have no start issues. This one comes also with stalling issues all at once. So all right, everybody, well, thanks to all my watchers that watch me and hang out. If I don't post for a while, it's because I've just gotten busy. I'm one man with my wife and trying to raise 4 kids and make $1 here and there. So sometimes it just makes better sense just to knock out work and get it done. But this Saturn stuff is pretty interesting, so I thought it would be good to get them posted. If you're a Saturn owner and you're having this issue and you'd like to talk to somebody who's dealt with it a few times now, shoot me an email. I'm always happy to put our heads together and let's get it all figured out. All right, everybody, well, this is Matthew, your friendly neighborhood technician. I am signing off.